And welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Podcast, the show where we take a given movie genre and we explore those good titles, those bad titles, and those ugly titles that are just one screw short of a ball. Hey guys, I'm Mark.
Hey, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Charles. And as you guys can see, we have a special guest who is very familiar with this whole thing. He started it years ago with me. This is Topher. And
hey guys, how's it going?
And this is another special episode. Last time we announced we were going to do my pick, which was because we were going to skip Kelly's pick for a moment, and now we're skipping my pick to do this. It's kind of interesting how that worked. But what's funny is I mentioned my pick, and then I was like, oh, why don't we just do another one during this quarantine? You guys, if you have any downtime, do you want to just go ahead and watch mine, and we'll do a second one in the month? And they're like, no, I don't know if we'll have time. So I was like, well, okay, let's do a special one. And like suddenly we picked 7 movies. And like, yeah, we got time to do 7 movies. We just can't do your 3 that you picked.
Because none of these movies are Cats, Charles.
Well, is that the problem? You guys just didn't want to watch Cats?
No.
By the way, if you didn't watch the last episode, Topher, my pick was animal hybrid movies. And one of which was Cats. And it's not that they're actually like, well, except for one of them, they actually are a hybrid. But it's just that they're that uncanny valley between human and animal. That's what I was going for.
Please tell me that the Island of Dr. Moreau with Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando.
It is. It is on there.
And also, I know you.
And I wanted to put this on there that last time I kept referring to as Island of Dr. Monroe. It's Moreau. I just wanted to be clear. I forgot that until I rewatched it, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So anyway, and you guys out there, you may notice we're in black and white tonight. This is not a mistake, although, there are many mistakes on the show. This is actually intentional, and it's because of our topic. Now, as we said, I was kind of spitballing ideas to do another special episode during this quarantine time. And I said a few things, one of which was like slapstick comedies or like silent film comedies. And Kelly was like, no, let's do screwball comedies. And so with that, I want to put the pressure on Kelly. Kelly, define screwball comedy. What is a screwball comedy?
Okay, so I am terrible at defining genres, but a few features that I feel like are prominent with these are they're very dialogue heavy. They're all about the banter, all about the snappy, fast-paced, just repartee between the characters. There's usually a really heavy male versus female dynamic, kind of a battle of the sexes sort of thing. The best ones have a really strong female character. Some, we'll probably get into this tonight. Some are not as strong. Like I feel like they're so like crazy and zany that the plot is not necessarily what drives them to me. Like that's not what I'm the most focused on when I'm watching one of these. You kind of watch it more to see what shenanigans are going to happen, to listen to the dialogue, to watch them fall in love. There doesn't. I don't know if there has to be a romance necessarily every single time, but I feel like that's common.
But they do. I mean, they're heavy. It's hard to say because it is like a mixture of like all these different genres, really. And yeah. I would say these early ones, especially because their heyday was in the 1940s, 30s, mm-hmm. Especially leading up to World War II. But I would say that they definitely gave way to more traditional romantic comedies. Mm-hmm. But the more traditional ones kind of skew heavily on the romantic part instead of the kind of silliness and zaniness of it. So it's a very fine line. But some of these, especially our first one that happened one night, really kind of set the bar for everything. So it's really hard to say. So with that said, it was hard to pick these. We had to narrow it down. We had it narrowed down to 6. Kelly threw in an extra one, which we'll get to in a bit. It's kind of like last time when I was the only one that had watched the movie. And Mark picked a few, and we'll probably disagree about some of these too, because I'm of the opinion that not all of these are screwball comedies, and I would say there's 2 on here that are not. But that may surprise you which 2 I pick for that. And also, this is, like I said, this is a special episode. There's not necessarily going to be good, bad, and ugly. We're just going to talk about these movies and kind of hopefully, give you a break, give you some entertainment. late on a Wednesday night, so you're not going crazy.
What else is anybody doing, right?
That's right. Right. And if you notice, I'm wearing a shirt. My wife made this shirt. Joe Bob Briggs back this Friday. The last drive-in on Shudder. One of my favorite programs. It was awesome last season. So if it's worth even getting a trial to Shudder to see if you like it. If you don't know who Joe Bob Briggs is, this is Ernie, the Bearded Dragon. So anyway, are we ready to start?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Topher,
I'm ready to go.
There's a look of bewilderment there. All right. Okay, so Kelly, I think you're going to start off with a synopsis for It Happened One Night from 1934, and then we'll play the trailer.
Yes. Okay, this is short and sweet. A spoiled heiress running away from her family is helped by a man who is actually a reporter in need of a story.
All right.
By Frank Capra.
All right. So here we go.
How do you expect to get to New York at the rate you're going?
That's none of your business.
You're on a budget from now on.
Now, just a minute. You...
Get out.
You've got a name, haven't you?
Yeah, I got a name. Peter Warren.
Peter Warren. I don't like it.
Don't let it bother you. You're giving it back to me in the morning.
Take me with you, Peter. Take me to your island. I want to do all those things you talked about.
You'd better go back to your bed.
You mind if I try?
You? Don't make me laugh.
Oh, you're such a smart Alex. Nobody knows anything but you. I'll stop a car, and I won't use my thumb.
What are you going to do?
The system on my own.
It Happened One Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, like Charles said, this did set the bar because it won a bunch of awards too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it was the first one to win the so-called top 5 ones, like actor, actress, director, screenplay, all that stuff, picture.
Yep.
And like we said, it's kind of it was the first in so many ways. This kind of traditional romantic comedy that we've seen so many times. And I, for one, love it. I think it's a great movie. I think it holds up incredibly well, too.
Yeah. It does. Same here. I mean, I think the Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert, like, they have really good chemistry. Even the scene, he plays this type of character so well, who's like, this kind of a gruff exterior, but he has a secretly tender heart underneath, all of it. And he's like kind of a jerk, but kind of not. It's hard to pin down. I mean,
well, a lot of it felt so modern too. I don't know if you guys felt that way. I mean, it really did. Like the dialogue was fast and witty, and surprisingly, like there were a few things that it didn't feel. It felt like it could have been a movie made now that happened to take place in the 30s or in the and in the early 30s, right? So like it didn't feel like these were what I would consider some of the acting styles of that time, or some of the cliches from that time period.
Yeah. There's a timeless quality to it.
Yeah.
There were a couple things that kind of took me out of it for just a minute. The father figure was a little bit over the top. I guess at the beginning, so there was this huge turnaround, right? Like at the beginning, he was basically had her entrapped on this boat. And then by the end, he was all in favor of the marriage, right?
Yeah, because he knew that Clark Gable's character really loved her and wasn't just after her for the money. That is one of the weaker aspects of it, because her fiance, they don't really show him that much, and they don't really even, it's just the father says that he's after the money. They don't really even show him just being after the money, as far as I remember. So I wish they would show that on screen a little bit more, or had more of a fight. But even that I think was pretty awesome when Clark Gable shows up. It's the typical thing of romantic comedies now where there's a misunderstanding and she thinks he's just after the money, but he just wants what's owed to him. And also I kept looking at like my wife and I love to like look at what things would have cost then compared to now, and it's like he wanted like $39.60, but that would have been like $700 in today's money. So it's just interesting. Wow. And that reward that they offer would have been close to like I think like $2 million. It's crazy how much it's gone up with inflation.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, but it's very, very charming. Just the movie in general.
It's Capra-esque.
It is. It is. It's good Capra though, because sometimes he can be a little bit cheesy, corny. But this is one of his best ones, I think.
We were actually just talking about that when the trailer was playing. That we haven't. I don't think we've done a Frank Capra episode yet. Topher, I think. Which movie were you saying was your favorite of his? Or
I was going to say, yeah, if you do that episode, you got to bring me back for a Capra episode, because I would totally come in and talk about a Capra episode. But Lost Horizon is the one that I really enjoy a lot. That's the one that has like the folks end up in like Shangri-La. It's the whole. It's a great movie. It's fantastic, but it's also like it was a really popular book, and like in the 30s, like FDR named Camp David Shangri-La after the book. I mean, like it's a anyway, it was like a cultural thing at the time. So the fact that Capra made the movie of it, and it had a huge budget, like $2 million sets built in Van Nuys. I mean, it was a thing, like $2 million then, not $2 million
right
now. And it was like a big movie at the time. But anyway, but no one's ever heard of it. No one ever saw it because it was a very socially unacceptable movie during the communist fight. Because it was, I mean, Capra makes
so in Hell Caesar movies. They probably wouldn't have liked it too much, the characters in that movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that connection is not lost, yeah, for sure. But anyway, yeah, we'll get back to that later, I'm sure. But no, that's a good movie. And Capra just he does have the ability to be preachy, but he does have the ability to be really charming and quaint at the same time. So
I was saying Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, that's one of my favorites. I love that movie. So okay, so sounds like if I'm hearing you guys right, we're ready to move on to the next one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only the last comment I was going to say is that Claudette Colbert looks like a young Liza Minnelli to me, but
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that too. So the next one is what? Bringing Up Baby.
Bringing Up Baby.
Oh no.
Is that you, Topher? Who's reading the thing
That's
for this?
me. No, that's me.
Okay.
Our synopsis here is: while trying to secure a $1 million donation for his museum, a befuddled paleontologist is pursued by a flighty and often irritating heiress and her pet leopard baby. That is an incredibly wordy synopsis.
Okay, and here is the trailer.
Only let me explain. You see, I just gave someone that bag to hold, and that... I hope you realize that you've made a perfect fool of yourself in front of everyone. Have you finished?
Yes, I have.
Thank you very much. Oh.
You lied to me.
Yes, but just a little
Telling
bit.
me a
I mean, no.
story about
but it
a
isn't
leopard.
a ridiculous story. I have
Where is the leopard?
In there.
I don't believe you.
But you must believe
I've been
me.
a
That's
victim
the
once
truth.
more of your unbridled imagination.
What do you want?
Well, Mrs. Random invited me for dinner. Would you please find out if she still wants me?
She's hung up.
Oh, there. So am I. I am Major Horace Applegate of the Explorers Club.
What are you doing with that gun?
The gun is, I have been hunting leopards.
You've been hunting leopards, have
Yes, yes, I have been hunting leopards.
you? Any luck?
Well, not what I'm accustomed to, no. You see, I was slightly confused regarding
Boys,
leopards. They told me that the...
Take your hands off that man!
Come on,
Come on, stop.
Lock him up.
Hey, let go.
Hello, Gildersleeve.
Oh, Miss Susan, how in the world did you get here?
Influence.
You mean to tell me he wants to wear that thing?
Look, of course I don't want to wear this thing. All I want to do is get married.
Susan, I forbid it.
I absolutely put my foot down.
Oh, but Artie, you
I'll
don't
put you
understand.
off
But
without
please
respect.
let me explain.
Now,
Now,
you
all
want
I
me to
know,
marry a
please
man
listen
like
to me.
that?
Now,
Quiet!
Oh, but David, please. Oh!
And that is 1938's Bringing a Baby with. Is it Bring a Baby or Bebe? Because it's the name of the leopard was Bebe, right? But I guess they Americanized it in the title. Anyway, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. I didn't realize Katharine Hepburn and who's the other Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Audrey.
I didn't realize they were. Yeah, I didn't know they were different people until a few weeks ago. So.
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
It struck me as like,
That would have
those
been
are different
confusing.
actresses. And not related at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun fact about myself.
I think Katharine Hepburn is like the best part of this movie. I mean, yes, it's got the witty dialogue, and yes, it has. To y'all's point before about like what a screwball comedy is, where it's like the plot really doesn't matter. It's about the witty dialogue and watching the characters fall in love or the hijinks or whatever. I feel like the MacGuffin in this movie of a leopard is ridiculous and crazy, and it's fun and it works.
Wait,
that is
two leopards. Two leopards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
It gets, and yet somehow, like Katharine Hepburn, not only does she seem to kind of float above it all, it doesn't ever seem to faze her the fact that they're like, oh, we're chasing a leopard and a dog through the woods at night, and there's a man with a shotgun. What's the worst that could happen? You know, and it's just, she just doesn't care. But I was realizing, and this is a terrible reference, so please forgive me, but like I was watching it and I was like, she feels very much like almost like Natalie Portman in Garden State, that kind of like manic pixie dream girl. Like she's like the proto manic pixie dream girl. And I was like, I get it now. Like she is incredibly charming. And back then it must have been like a total revelation that you could have a female character that is that kind of character. That's just kind of
there's a Sandra Bullock movie. I think, is it called All About Steve? Probably no one's seen.
Yeah, no one talking about.
Because in her character very much reminds me of Katharine Hepburn's in this, which is to say, awful. Of
course you hate it.
I hate this movie. I didn't get it. The whole movie, I just couldn't stand her character.
Of course you hate it.
I'm now getting flashbacks to the original podcast where you both were on completely different planes of existence.
Always. I don't feel like we've ever even watched the same movie.
I don't think we did. Seriously, you found her charming at the beginning when she
in this movie.
When she gets in his car and wrecks it.
I mean, it's in that kind of like, I don't know.
This is like Amelie. This is like Amelie style.
Like Amelie is
wow.
Kind of that way, but I don't know. Like, I almost feel like Katharine Hepburn in this movie, not only I do find her charming in this movie, but I also find it like it's almost like she is this heiress who has never actually had to do anything for real, so that when she ends up in the real world, she doesn't know what to do. And it's just kind of like, that's the reason. I don't know. Maybe
I would say that about the Philadelphia Story, but not about this movie. Right?
Okay,
look, here's the thing. You and I
can
will
bridge
not
the gap.
Will not agree, so it's okay.
I think I can bridge the gap between y'all two, because I think Katharine Hepburn as an actress, I think transcends this movie. Like, I didn't enjoy the movie that much, but I loved Katharine Hepburn in it, because I think if you just watch one scene of this movie, it's really charming and like, oh, okay, yeah, this is, she's screwball comedian and she's just, messing around. But throughout the entire movie, it just got a little bit stale. It's like, oh, it's Okay,
See,
it's still going on.
I
There's
would-
still a leopard on the loose.
I
and
would
there's
actually say I had the
dog.
opposite thing of it. Like, I couldn't stand her character at the beginning, and by the end, I admit I kind of like. I feel like it was almost like a slow burner of a film when it all finally culminated in the jail. I actually laughed. There were a lot of funny parts in that, but it took me a really long time to warm up to her. She just, I don't know. I didn't find her charming, and I found her to actually be the worst part of this movie.
Oh man.
And actually, and I felt like for both of them, I felt like this is not the Cary Grant that I want to see. This guy was a pushover, a weakling. He wasn't very charming.
Yeah.
I want to see. I want to see Cary Grant from His Girl Friday or from North by Northwest. This is not, and this
I
is
agree. I
this
think
is another
he was
thing too.
miscast.
Well, yeah, but also like this is kind of the same style he did for Arsenic and Old Lace, which I don't like either. I don't like the kind of super zaniness like that. But again, having said that, as the movie went on, I did start to find it funnier. I even like the part where the aunt comes to the door and he's in the robe and he's like, I just suddenly felt like being gay, and he jumps up, and that line surprised me. I didn't expect that line to come from, and I know it means different than it does now, but it felt like a very modern line that just kind of got me off guard and made me crack up. So, but again, I felt like these two actors, they went on to do the Philadelphia Story, and in that movie, I feel like their characters are similar, but they're more grounded and more toned down, and I appreciated their performances more in the Philadelphia Story, if that makes sense. This one was just cranked up way too high for me. Kelly's being pretty silent on this. I don't know where she stands on this.
I find this conversation very funny and amusing because I think these are the two camps about this movie. Like, Topher, I love the way that you described it, and that is the people who agree with that way of thinking about it are the reason why this movie is a classic Screwball, because there are so many people who love it and find it so charming. And then it's just one of those movies that there is no, I mean, Mark, maybe you're an exception to this, but there's almost no middle ground. Like, you either really love it or you really hate it. And I agree with Charles on this one.
Yes.
I can't. I just, and I hate that I not that I hate to
You hate that you agree with me. Wait, don't take it back. Just enjoy the moment, people.
No, not that I hate to disagree with you or to agree with you, but I really want to like this movie for all of those reasons you described, Topher, because I love your description. You've described a movie that if I watched that description, I would be enthralled with it. But I just can't do it. She is such a flipperty gibbet in this movie. Like, I definitely agree, Charles, with what you're saying about this isn't either of their most charming not roles, I guess, but
performances.
Yeah, well, I guess, but Cary Grant, like, he did a lot of movies like this. He did a lot of Hitchcock, and he did a lot of movies where he was a little more toned down, but he did so many like this where he was in this insane fictional world where he was kind of the straight man and he was just doing Jim Halpert faces at the camera the entire time, and everybody around him is doing
what
God knows what.
Which Mae West movie was he in? Was it She Done Him Wrong? Was that the one he was in?
Yeah, he was in that one, and I'm No Angel.
Yeah. And I felt like I don't know. I felt like he was kind of in between someone on this. He wasn't. He was more toned down, but still pretty silly in that one.
Yeah. It's just like, this is kind of a characteristic of a lot of Screwballs too, where these plots can happen because nobody lets anybody else finish a sentence. There's all this mistaken information because everyone just talks over everyone else, and that's why it's funny because everyone's like and everybody just like, but it grates on my nerves. And that's part of why I don't like Katharine Hepburn's character in this, is because she just plows ahead and
well, and now that you're saying that, I actually 100% agree that's part of what turned me off right at the beginning, because that happens right away with the golf they're playing, and she keeps hitting his ball. That just drove me nuts. And maybe it's an introverted thing because it takes energy to speak, and we're like, I feel like maybe I was just drained, like every word he couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of what it is for me on a personal level. Another thing about this movie that I did not like was the role of his fiance. She was totally inconsequential. She shows up for a brief bit at the end to tell him, oh, he showed his true colors. She can't possibly marry him. It's like a get out of jail card, because clearly you wanted to go with Katharine Hepburn at that point for who knows why. But it felt like, that's one of those, that's a problem I have with romantic comedies in general. They always, even modern ones, they have to always make the fiance kind of a goofball or have some problem that gets them out of that relationship. Like Sleepless in Seattle, poor Bill Pullman, he has to be allergic to everything. And just, even if he's a nice guy, he's just got this big problem. He can't possibly gel with her life. And that's, and maybe that started with this movie. I'm not sure, but it felt just like they wrote her off. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it felt like a really contrived setup where it's like, he clearly doesn't need to be in a relationship with this girl, so it'll be okay when Katharine Hepburn enters the scene.
Right.
Because it's like, my note at the beginning was, this is not how marriages work. Because she told him, like, no, we won't have a honeymoon. You have to be all in on your work, and this like, that's not how any of that works. You can't just tell your spouse that we're not going to have a honeymoon in front of somebody else while you're building a dinosaur bone. That's also not how paleontology works, by the way. But
yeah.
To be clear, this is so not my kind of movie. I just like Katharine Hepburn. Like, the way that she delivers some lines in this movie are fantastic. Like when he's like, we have to get out of this apartment. She's like, are you kidding? I've signed a lease. Like that line, just that way, and the way she delivers it is fantastic. I like that. But
I agree. There's a lot of really witty banter that I did like a lot of quick throwaway jokes. I appreciate that. I really did. I'm not. It's just.
And again, I think that popcorn aspect of it, I enjoy. But everything you guys are saying about like, well, this character's thinly written and this person's not being used to the best of their, all that's. I agree with all of that. It's not like this is like my number one movie or anything. It's just, I think she's charming, and I think it's funny enough to be palatable and enjoyable and whatever, but it's like, I don't know.
Well, you know what would have made this a better movie, in my humble opinion, is if she was the millionaire. Because that's what I thought I had seen coming in the golf scene, was that she was the one who was going to donate the money.
I thought that as well. Yeah.
Me too.
And this was an act that she was putting on, but it didn't turn out to be that. She turned out to put the screwball in Screwball Comedy.
Yep.
Would have been better.
Yes.
For sure.
All right. So we're going to do the next movie. Let's see. It's His Girl Friday, and I'm going to read the synopsis. Let's see. This is another Cary Grant movie. Oh. What's funny is I had it pulled up, and then all of a sudden it didn't. Okay, here it goes. Another very short one here. A newspaper editor uses every trick in the book to keep his ace reporter ex-wife from remarrying. So, here is the trailer.
From the Columbia Studios in Hollywood comes an exciting new film triumph. A companion hit to Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. His Girl Friday. Co-starring a thrilling new pair of screen lovers. Devil May Care, Cary Grant, and ravishing Rosalind Russell. Let's listen in to one of their tender, idyllic love scenes.
I am fond of you, you know.
Yeah, girl.
I often wish you weren't such a stinker.
just escaped.
Jailbreak. Don't know yet.
On your back.
Hello, Operator Hildy Johnson. Will you get me...
Drop that phone.
Never mind. Put that gun down, Earl.
No, I won't. Here's your reprieve.
Huh?
They tried to bribe me right away.
Who are they? Who are they?
Them.
Why, that's absurd on the face of it. Walter, he's talking like a child. Out of the mouths of babes.
Hi, babe.
This is Mr. Baldwin, Bruce's mother.
What are you doing? Shut up.
I won't shut up. You're doing something wrong.
Mother, please.
Take her out of here.
Oh, wait a minute, Walter.
Quiet, Louis.
Yes, boss.
Take the lady over to Pollock Mike's.
My name's Louis Peluso.
Take all those Miss America pictures off, face said.
Please tell me the truth. Gildy, if you ever love me, please
Now, look here, my good
You
fellow.
shut up, Burns.
How can I do anything to
You're
you?
doing all this to her. I know that. She wanted to get away from you and everything you stand for, but you were too smart. You caught her and changed her mind, didn't you?
Take Hitler and stick him on the funny page. Now, let me ask you.
And that was His Girl Friday from 1940. And is it just me, or why is it called His Girl Friday? Do we ever learn that in the movie?
I actually was
Did
wondering
that
that.
miss
Is it just because the way I took it was that it's the fiance's girl that Friday, but by the next day it's going to be back to... That's the way I took it. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's his girl for Friday.
Maybe? I don't know. Maybe I'm way off on that. That's the way I took it.
I have never known the answer to that, but when we were watching it, Zach actually was like, "Oh, I think it's a reference to, or it's like a line from Robinson Crusoe."
Oh.
Where he saves some guy who's down on his luck and literally saves his life, and so he becomes his man and like does anything for him, and he's kind of his right hand guy, not his servant exactly, but like his person that he can count on for anything, who helps him get all his crap done. And so he calls him his man Friday. I don't know why. I don't know if his name was Friday or what. So I think that's
like a play on words kind of thing.
Well, that was also just a thing, right? Like a girl Friday is like an assistant. That's just like, yeah, that's just like, just Google it. I mean, it's just like Girl Friday is just somebody you call your assistant who runs errands for you, or like it's a trusted assistant, basically.
Oh.
Cool.
I just learned something today.
I learned a lot then, because I'm just overthinking it. All right, cool. So, what'd you guys think?
Well, I like the Robinson Crusoe thing. That's good too.
Yeah. I think this movie was the most fun to watch. It had the best kind of forward momentum to it, with the plot and the absurdity and the character building with Hildy. She was really great, and I loved how everybody reacted to her coming in. It really showed how loved she was, and they did a good job on that in the film.
Out of the list, this was my favorite by far. It happened one night, would probably be my second favorite, but I love this movie. This is that really fast rat-a-tat-tat dialogue. I mean, you talked about overlapping dialogue. Like, this is definitely that, and it's that transatlantic accent. I don't know. I really love that. You have to we had to put on captions just to be able to capture everything, because it goes so fast and people talk over each other. And like that scene you just saw in the trailer where the fiance is trying to talk to her while she's on the phone, and Cary Grant's talking to someone else, and it's just they're all three having these really funny conversations, especially if you listen to what Cary Grant tells people on the phone. And any one of those is like great dialogue, but they just throw them all on top of each other and whip it up in a big sundae and see what happens. And I love it.
Yeah, because the cool thing about that scene is that what Cary Grant says answers what she is saying to her fiance at points.
Yes, it does. It's and so that not only is the dialogue really great and sharp, but it's well acted and well timed comedically, and it flows. I really liked it.
I like that moment when it's one of those phone conversations with, or no, I forget if he's on the phone or if his director walks in, but Cary Grant, her fiance has just left, and he's like, "Who was that guy?" And Cary Grant describes him. He's like, "Oh, he looks like that guy from the movies, Ralph Bellamy."
Yes,
it is Ralph Bellamy, and so I thought that was kind of a funny little meta thing.
And there's another part later on where he's talking about old Archie Leach, and that's Cary Grant's real name.
Yeah.
So, There's a lot of really witty things in there like that, and especially we talk about modern movies, and that's what helps make it feel fresh and alive. That kind of winking to the audience knowingly kind of thing. So I think it's another one of those that's way ahead of its time. I really, really liked it. This is the Cary Grant that I like. This kind of, he's very charming, very confident guy, but also very funny without being so over the top and silly. He's, everything he does is funny in their dialogue. And even when she's trying to kick him and she kicks the waiter by accident, it was really just cracking me up the entire movie.
And Rosalind Russell, she is, in my eyes, in direct contrast to Katharine Hepburn's character in Bringing Up Baby. She is definitely not a flibberty-gibbet. She is a self-contained woman. She's smart. She's funny. She's sexy. She can hang. She can, she's the best in the biz, and Cary Grant knows it, and he's got to keep her. And she lives. She's not all about domesticity and she just, I don't know, she's into her career. She wants to live life adventurously, and I don't know, she's just so cool, and it feels so effortless.
Well, and she's on par with Cary Grant. That's what I really like too. It's that battle of the sexes, because they're both capable of cheating and twisting things around and outsmarting the other one, but they're on the level. They're equal, because she knows what's coming. That's why she has her fiance put the check in his hat. And I really like that banter. There's a lot, because not only is put them on the same level, which is, again, I think of more modern films when I think of that, but it also gives a lot of good backstory, because you can tell they really know each other, and they really did love each other at one point. So it's just so well done. I really, really enjoyed it. And we were talking, this is a Howard Hawks movie, and he also did Bringing Up Baby. So it's very interesting, the performances that he was able to capture, and these are both considered classic Screwball movies, and they're so different. So, anything else, guys, on that one, or do we want to move on to the Philadelphia Story?
The only thing that
I really like the ending to this movie, because I was not sure how it was going to end with Hildy's character, and she ended up realizing that he loved her when she thought he wasn't going to do something unscrupulous to stop her from going, if that makes sense. Like, he thought she thought he wasn't going to bring himself to a low level, and realize he did. And that was like the perfect ending in this kind of absurd Screwball world. That was an absurd ending. I think it really matched. Yeah. Like I said, this movie, it's just funny. I mean, my wife and I were watching it, and we were both like laughing out loud at several parts. It's very good. All right. So Philadelphia Story. Who's doing the synopsis for that one?
Well, Topher wanted to say something.
Oh, God, I'm sorry, Topher. Did we cut you off? I didn't mean to.
No. It's okay. The only thing I was going to say, and this is very tangential because I have not seen His Girl Friday, so y'all forgive me for that. But as you guys are describing it, I'm sitting here thinking, like, this sounds like something that would have been very formative for like a young Robert Altman to have seen, with the overlapping snappy dialogue and people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, you guys are describing MASH. And by the way, how did no Robert Altman movies end up on a Screwball comedy list? Like, it just...
Okay, so this, there's not an exact science to this, right? Like, we just were throwing out movies and whittling it down kind of thing. So that's why some of the movies ended up on here that did. So, and again, this is, in some way, I wanted to make sure that we put movies that, I wanted a mixture. I wanted some that I thought we would probably think were bad and ugly and so on and so on, rather than just a bunch of classics too. So, and at least that was what my intention was, but we're not necessarily all agreeing on these, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Well, we never do anyway, so.
I know, but yeah.
Surprise.
All right. I think is it you, Mark, Philadelphia Story?
Yes.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Story, 1940. When a rich woman's ex-husband and a tabloid-type reporter turn up just before her planned marriage, she begins to learn the truth about herself.
Okay, here's the trailer.
you're slipping, Red. I used to be afraid of that look. The withering glance of the goddess.
I didn't think that alcohol would do... Oh, shut up.
Dinah, stay here.
Oh, please, Mother. Maybe he's going to soccer again.
It's what everybody feels about you. It's what I first worshipped you for from afar.
George, listen.
First, now, and always. Only from a little nearer now. Hey, darling?
I don't want to be worshipped. I want to be loved.
Someday over the rainbow, way up high.
What is this, Connor?
Oh, easy, old man. She's not hurt?
No.
Not wounded, Saul, but dead.
Seems the minute she hit the water, the wine hit her.
Now, look here, Connor. A likely story, Connor.
Hello, Dexter. Hello, George. Hello, Mike.
You have a good mind, a pretty face, a disciplined body that does what you tell it. You have everything that it takes to make a lovely woman except the one essential, an understanding heart. And without that, you might just as well be made of bronze.
And the night that you got drunk on champagne and climbed out on the roof and stood there naked with your arms out to the moon, wailing like a banshee.
I told you I never had the slightest recollection of doing any such thing.
What in the name of all that's holy am I to do?
Tracy.
Yes, Mike.
Old Parson Parsi, he's never seen Kittredge before, has he? Now look, I got you into this thing, and I'll get you out of it. Will you marry me, Tracy?
That is the Philadelphia Story with Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and Danny DeVito.
Which, if you're wondering, it's because we were having that conversation during the trailer. Like, Mark out of the blue said he wished that Danny DeVito was in this movie. We couldn't figure out if he meant as a little boy or
no. We
as
said
himself.
I made the Always Sunny in Philadelphia joke. It's the Philadelphia Story, Always Sunny. And then I said Danny DeVito should have been. And then anyway, let's move on.
Flew completely over my head.
So to me, this is the most nuanced movie of the bunch, where Katharine Hepburn gets a chance to shine, and we really see a three-dimensional character out of her, this Southern belle that's really being trapped by all these constraints put on her. That's my 30-second summary.
Nuance to Batman and Robin, Schwarzenegger's performance, as I'm fond of saying.
No.
No. But I agree with you. I liked her performance a lot in this. I don't know that I love the movie, especially not as much as the other ones on this list. I don't think it's anywhere near His Girl Friday or It Happened One Night. But I did like her performance and the way she went, and I liked I liked the kind of harshness of it at points too. Like, her dad was very direct, very harsh, and that was kind of an interesting scene, and it was a sign of the times. Like, he was blaming her for his infidelity, which is weird. But then it felt like they just wrapped it up at the very end, where he said one quick thing to her, and it was like suddenly everything's forgiven. And it's like, eh. But I liked the dialogue. I felt like it was very, very edgy, especially for that time. And and how she wanted to be loved and not worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
Can we hover over that for a second? Because that was the one real cringy moment of the movie where I think a lot of it holds up today. But that like you said, the father was blaming her for not being a loving enough daughter and saying, oh, when a man doesn't have a loving enough daughter, he seeks that love elsewhere, which is horrible. And that scene really was, there's no other word for it, horrible. But they almost seem like there's an ambiguity with, did he actually cheat on his wife with the dancer or not? Because at first he kind of denied it, and if that's true, then she was jumping to conclusions, and he has a point. But if it's not true, like, did he actually? Do we assume he actually cheated on his wife with the?
I mean, they never confirmed it. They just kind of threw it away with it after that scene. Really,
I thought he did. That's how I've read it.
Okay.
I wasn't sure, because you're right. He never directly said he did. The mom didn't ever want to talk about it. So yeah,
which is all realistic to the time, but
yeah.
Okay.
And and as far as cringeworthy scenes, the opening scene was kind of cringeworthy, where Cary Grant balled up his fist like he was gonna punch her, and then pushed her down. Like, I was like, oh, here we go. This is the big scene here. And then they mentioned, did he knock her out? Luckily that was the one and the father speech that were cringeworthy to me in this movie, but the rest of it felt pretty modern. The odd thing is, James Stewart, he's the one that won an Academy Award for this movie, and his character was my least favorite, so that's kind of interesting, I think. I don't know what you guys thought of him.
I like his character in this. I really like this movie, honestly. This is one of my favorite movies. I think I agree with what you're saying about those scenes, but like everything else to me works really, really well. And it's a beautifully shot movie. Like when you're there's so many times when I'm watching it and you could almost pause on any still frame and just blow it up and frame it above your mantle. The all of her gowns just like made your eyes fall out of your head. They were so beautiful, and there was all the sparkling dialogue, and I think it's really interesting how the movie, at least so when you're watching it, you kind of hope and assume like, oh, this is going to be a romance between Katharine Hepburn and Jimmy Stewart. And the scene where they like drink all the champagne and stay out all night, and then there's like did they, didn't they, the next morning, like I found all that really charming. And I don't know, but you spend all this time like rooting for them to get together, but then it still works somehow when she ends the way that it ends. I guess that's kind of spoiled,
I agree to an extent, like, because you are happy with what happened, but at the same time it did felt kind of like misdirection, right? Like they were kind of wanting it felt like the movie was very much wanting these two to get together. I don't know.
Yeah.
Her and Dexter, or
no, her and I can't think of Jimmy Stewart's character, but
Mike.
Yeah, it felt like they really wanted them to get together because he seemed like he didn't worship her, like he was exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was a little mixed on that myself.
I assumed they were trying to subvert our expectations, because I assumed from the beginning that it was going to be her and Cary Grant getting back together. And then the whole Jimmy Stewart thing threw a whole wrench in the works for me. I was surprised by that scene where they were dancing around the fountain and kissed. And then I was like, oh, like I saw them kind of setting that up, but I was like, they're not going to go in this direction. And then when it happened, I thought, oh, that's why I said nuanced. And it almost seems like it was based on a novel, even though it was based on a Broadway play. But this seems like it seems more novelistic in its storyline of, I don't know, all three of these men and their interactions with Katharine Hepburn. So I just kind of liked it. It kept me guessing a little bit. Like I assumed Cary Grant they were going to get back together at the end, but I liked what they did because I hadn't expected it.
Yeah.
And like I didn't expect it either. Like I really didn't. It surprised me.
I feel like I guess thinking about it more, they had to, not had to, but the whole thing with her and Mike about how he didn't think he thought she was made of flesh and blood, not the golden, not made of bronze, or whatever their whole thing that they repeated was. But having Mike feel that way, it seems kind of opened Dexter's eyes to that as well. And then because of their relationship and her kind of indiscretions with him, she realized about herself that she, was vulnerable to human faults. And then Dexter saw that she was vulnerable, and she saw that he saw that she saw, and so it kind of enabled them to get back together.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that, and I like that Cary Grant was kind of behind the scenes, like manipulating things in his favor too, even if it was, helping one man. I don't know. It felt like that could have gone a lot of ways too. Like, was he helping Jimmy Stewart because he wanted her to be happy, or was he helping him for his own, plan to get back? So I liked all of that. And you and I were talking, Kelly, about how the character is very much like the character in It Happened One Night, kind of a spoiled lady that, with questionable relationship with her father, and doesn't always feel loved and wants to be on her own and strong and independent, and that. So part of me wonders if that's kind of one of the story points of these screwball comedies, that kind of thing. If it helps to have that, is it a like a financial social thing? Is it like high class versus low class? You know what I mean? Is that an aspect of these movies at any point?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a common theme.
Yeah.
In a lot of them, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Next one, guys. I think if you guys are done talking about that one, we can move on to Ball of Fire.
Everybody now.
Everybody.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Gracious.
All right. Ball of Fire, 1941. A group of professors working on a new encyclopedia encounter a mouthy nightclub singer who is wanted by the police to help bring down her mob boss lover.
All right, and here is the trailer.
Great educators throughout the world have been forced to streamline our dictionaries and encyclopedias because of the demands of modern slang. Selected to perform this Herculean task of rewriting these ponderous volumes of knowledge is Professor Bertram Potts, who knows nothing about the subject of slang.
This is research, isn't it?
Yes.
Certainly. Who would that guy learn so much from watching an apple drop?
Isaac Newton, the law of gravity.
Yeah, that's him. And I want you to look at me as another apple, Professor Potts. Just another apple. Yeah, that's perfect.
What are you doing?
I'm going to show you what Yum Yum is. Here's Yum. Here's the other Yum. And here's Yum Yum.
Lipstick. A sticker.
Reach for the hold of your hand.
And that was Ball of Fire, which none of us except Kelly have seen. Kelly, go.
Okay, well, I'll keep it short and sweet. But this movie is highly ridiculous. It's very, very silly. But it has the secret sauce for me. I would not say it's ugly. I really think it's good. So in trying to convince somebody to watch this with me, I had no idea how hard it would be for people to find, and Charles was like, where in the heck can I watch this movie?
Yeah, because you can't rent it online anywhere. Like
yeah, and I don't understand that at all. I had it on DVD, and in my mind, it was directed by Howard Hawks. It stars Gary Cooper and Barbara Stanwyck. It was written by Billy Wilder. It has 7.8 stars on IMDb. Like, wow.
And she was nominated for an Oscar for it.
Yeah, I truly don't understand. I don't know why you can't find this, but
But Kelly, I've got a surprise for you.
You do?
I watched it. I've seen it with you.
You did?
Yes.
Yay!
So this is the Kelly. So when I told Kelly that I couldn't find it anywhere, and I really wanted to see it. She sent it as a gift for me. She just surprised me with it, right? But it kept not being here. And it finally arrived today, and I watched it today right before the podcast. And I believe it's, if you guys can see that, it's Korean characters on the back of the case. I have no idea. And even though it says 4x3, it was like, it was formatted for 16:9, so it just cropped off the top and bottom, and it was a really interesting experience. So
Really?
I have watched it, and yeah.
Well, okay.
Is yours not cropped off, Kelly?
No, mine looks completely normal.
So I did wonder if it was my settings on my player for a DVD, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It was.
I don't know.
I was like, but I've watched it. I've seen it.
Well, that stinks. Well, I am so excited. I thought that the Postal Service had failed you and me both. So, do you want me?
Go ahead. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a discussion since we're the only two people on Earth that have seen this movie.
The only two people on Earth. Okay. Well, I really love it. Anyone who's watching this now knows that I have mad love for Barbara Stanwyck. They call it a retelling of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs tale, and it is. It is so stinking cute. I was very charmed by all the elderly bachelors working on the encyclopedia who kind of fell in paternal love with Barbara Stanwyck's character, Sugar Puss O'Shea, for themselves. And Gary Cooper is delightfly awkward.
What's her name?
Her name is Sugar Puss O'Shea.
Sounds like a James Bond girl.
Yes. Okay, just checking. All right, I'm gonna mute my microphone again. Okay, sorry.
She is a gangster's moll in this film, and Dana Andrews plays Joe Lilac, her boyfriend. And yeah, it's a very ridiculous premise, but I just don't know. Charles, what do you think about it? Am I out on the limb here, or did you like it?
When you told me it was a bizarre movie, I was, that's what I was expecting. In truth, I didn't find it that bizarre. I liked it.
Really?
I liked
Yay!
it. I didn't think it was that weird of a plot. Like the Snow White thing is. You'll have to correct me on this, but the only thing I saw that was similar was that there are 7 professors, and there's not even 7. There's 8. I don't really get that, but in terms of that, I actually really liked it. As you know, you were saying the other day that you have kind of a blind spot when it comes to like movies of the 70s and 80s. I'm that way with a lot of the 30s and 40s, and especially like pre-code movies and all that. And I'm especially that way with Gary Cooper. Like, I have not seen a lot of his movies. So this was apparently a character that's way off from what he normally plays. It's very different, but I found it. I really enjoyed his character. I felt like it was because I don't, I was queuing up the trailer, so I can't actually remember what you were saying in the synopsis a second ago if you covered this, but I know you mentioned the part with the encyclopedia. That's the whole thing. It's these men they're shut off from the rest of the world for like 9 years working on an encyclopedia, and they're just to the letter S as far as subjects go, and so. But there's a lot of even that there's a lot of jokes in here that I just can't believe we're in there. Like, one of the guys is talking about he's just getting to sex, and he wants to go out and investigate that himself. And there's a lot of little funny, like, innuendos in there. But I actually they all kind of grew to be really charming. The professors and Gary Cooper's especially, when because he's trying to figure out different slang terms that they use in modern New York. During when the trailer was playing, you guys saw that it said something about her gams, and Mark was like, "What are gams?" And it's like, well, it's her legs in this movie, and it's Sugar Puss and all these different things.
I'll tell you when I'm older, son.
Yeah,
when you're older, son.
Yeah, and Yum Yum and all that stuff. And so it's in a way you would think that might date this movie with some of the slang they use, but it actually kind of makes it feel more modern because it gives us, the audience, someone that doesn't necessarily know a lot of these 30s and 40s slang to kind of reconnect in there and get into that world.
That's a good point.
And so I really actually enjoyed that aspect of it. And she is going. She knows something about a gangster, and so she's going to marry the gangster so that she doesn't have to testify against him. And I like the gangster character. I liked his performance. I liked the dialogue. It was really witty. There's just, it is charming. There's a lot of charm to it. And
yeah,
I didn't particularly find it that bizarre. I really didn't. And this is also one of the movies that I don't know if I consider it a true screwball comedy.
Really? You don't think so? Why not?
Because it's more about the romance. It's more the romantic comedy aspect. And they're not. I don't really consider the professor and her equal. It's more about the typical what's become cliche where they can't tell the truth about themselves yet, and they're having to, kind of lie their way through it, and they eventually fall in love. And we see that a ton today, right? But so I just don't see it as being in the same style as like the Battle of the Sexes, like in His Girl Friday or It Happened One Night. Not to say that's not a knock against the movie. I just don't consider that type of comedy. So I mean, maybe our definition isn't broad enough. I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe not. I could see that. That's fair.
But I really did enjoy it. It's got some really snappy dialogue, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Was your heart not warmed well, okay, and kind of to your point too, like Joe Lilac, the character, I'm not going to say he's as complex as Thanos, but like he's kind of one of those types of villains that you don't hate him.
No.
Like he seems to really care about her. He treats Gary Cooper with good humor up to a certain point, and then he's like, all right, well, you're kind of getting in my way now. I'm going to have to bust this up. But yeah, I mean, I think he's a good villain.
I thought that performance was really good. Like that surprised me. That wasn't just this cheesy two-dimensional villain at all. There was depth to him. You understood what he was trying to do, and again, the performance was fantastic. All of them did a really good job. It's a shame that this movie seems to have just fallen away, like with time. No one knows about this movie.
Yeah.
So
I know that is sad. I mean, I hope somehow that changes.
Yeah, I mean, if it, and even though the back has the Korean characters on it, so however this movie's made, it pops up. It's English, like the only languages that you can choose are English and Spanish. So I have no idea, like. I don't know, and like I said, maybe it was my player that I couldn't, that the aspect ratio just wasn't working right. But other than that, like I thought the transfer looked fine, and then like the dialogue popped up right away, like in English. I was like, okay, cool. Don't even have to, because there are some movies like if you ever order movies from other countries, and sometimes you have to switch it to a different language to get it to play in English or whatnot. But this was not one of them, so I don't know the origins of this movie.
Nor do I, but I am just happy that it found its way to you and that you did watch it. I'm really happy you loved it. I was hoping it wasn't just me.
Yeah, like I said, I was expecting an ugly movie. I was expecting it to be so bad and so bizarre but it wasn't. It's not. It's charming, and again, part of that may be that I don't know enough about Gary Cooper to know, like, it's kind of like when I saw Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and I hadn't really seen Chris Pratt because at that point I hadn't watched Parks and Rec, so I didn't know him as this like idiot character, this goofball guy, and so I really liked his performance of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I took it more seriously than someone that could only see the goofiness, right? So I feel like that's probably how I'm coming into this one, where it's like I don't know, I don't know anything about Gary Cooper. I know he's played cowboys, but I don't know much about him outside of that. So I just see him as this professor guy that's like been shelled up in the world for 9 years, and so
to that point, I do wonder a lot of these movies, before we make the like 70-year jump to the next two movies, how many of the decisions, because you're at a point when Hollywood was a machine, right, where it wasn't like this wasn't being run by artists trying to like make the best creation. They were making products to sell. And so when you look at some of these, like Philadelphia Story, you have this added and bringing up Baby, and were they trying to just recapture lightning to make something that was going to be profitable again? And then in Ball of Fire, you have Barbara Stanwyck, who I haven't seen it, obviously, like no one has, but you guys mentioned that she's like the girlfriend of a mob boss kind of situation. Well,
Yeah.
she's like in the quintessential film noir. So has she been pegged as like, she has this aura of organized crime kind of around, like, does she, I don't know, I'm just throwing out like,
Well,
is it possible that any of this stuff is...
I know you haven't watched it, but we did an episode on Barbara Stanwyck. What do you call them? Wickheads, Kelly? Kelly is a huge Barbara Stanwyck fan, so she can probably answer all those questions.
She probably can answer the questions then. I'm just throwing it out. I'm like looking, I'm like seeing connections, and I'm wondering, like, I wonder if that doesn't seem accidental. Is that possible? That, like, I don't know, maybe it was.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I feel like Gary Cooper, I mean, he was known for playing a lot of very serious roles, especially later on. I mean, he was in a lot of Westerns. He was in some war movies and just things like that. He was in The Fountainhead, and he played Lou Gehrig, and all these things. So, but in the 30s, he did do a good handful of movies similar to this, where he's kind of a lovable, awkward, just average Joe, you know what I mean? But and another example of that would be Mr. Deeds Goes to Town, which Adam Sandler remade into just Mr. Deeds a few years back. And then he did, what was it? He did another movie with Barbara Stanwyck called Meet John Doe.
Yep.
Which is kind of to your point, Topher, where they put him back up, team him back up almost immediately.
Yeah,
I guess like an equivalent to that would be like the Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks kind of thing, or something like, yeah.
Or just Scorsese and De Niro, like, oh, these guys work well together. Let's just keep throwing them together, like. But I guess that's different now. Though I guess my point being that back then it was such a machine. You've got to wonder how much these actors enjoyed playing these parts, or how much of it was just like, oh, you're that character, so that's what you do from now on, and like, you're contracted to Warner Brothers, so you don't have a choice, and that's just what you do forever. So.
Yeah.
Man, that's so bleak to end this. This is a good movie, guys.
Well,
thanks, Topher.
Sorry, it's what I do.
To take that and just put a little bit of happy spin on it, I definitely think you are correct. And they take something that they're trying to recapture, that lightning, and they run with it for a while. But Barbara Stanwyck is one of those ladies who did absolutely everything. So, like, she was in the quintessential film noir, but she was also in a decent amount of these screwball comedies. She was in Westerns. She was in a movie about Asian appropriation. She was in she's in all like romances, tearjerkers.
Wait, what? Which movie was that?
It's called The Bitter Tea of General Yin. So if you ever,
I know it well.
Come on, yeah.
That one's gonna be harder to find than Ball of Fire.
I thought Marlon Brando was in that movie.
Oh my gosh! Oh
no, wait. What's that movie? What's the one with Marlon Brando's playing is he playing Japanese or something? A Japanese soldier? No, not soldier, but
I forget what it's called. I can picture it in my head. I don't remember what
it's something with T in the title, and he's playing like the interpreter for the American soldiers, I believe.
Let me see. I gotta carry on. I'm gonna find out.
Well, carry on. You're 50% of the people who've seen this movie.
You can't throw out the bitter tea of General Yin. Like, how can you? You can't just throw that out.
Like, I can't carry this movie on my own. I've said all I need to say.
Wow, that was a Frank Capra movie, for crying out loud. The bitter tea of General Yin. I've never
was it really?
heard of that movie? Yeah.
What's the Marlon Brando movie? That's the one I want to know.
I'm searching.
Anyway,
I guess my point being, though, it's interesting to see that these characters, or these actors, continue to play these characters, and not to be bleak, because for all we know, they loved every second of it, right?
Yeah,
but it was
made
just
a lot of money doing it.
Well, is it not unlike like with Disney and the Marvel movies?
Right, exactly. Like Robert Downey Jr. has got to be sick of being Iron Man. Like,
Well, that's why he's not playing him anymore.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he can't go. That's all he'll ever be now, though. Like, he never gets. I mean, no one's ever going to remember him as anything other than that and Tropic Thunder, But it's not quite the same, I guess.
Just quickly, I found the title. It is The Tea House of the August Moon.
There you go.
That's the Brando one.
Yes.
And is he really? Do you say yellow face? Like, what is he? Does he dress up as a?
He is. I think he's the interpreter for the. It's I don't know which war it is. Is it World War II?
Back then, it was just good acting to.
But he is. He's
racialize yourself.
He's dressed up. He's dressed up to be like a translator for the army that comes through, and he's the one telling them all about the different ceremonies. Because I think I forget what they're trying to do, and he's the one trying to like negotiate it between the two.
Well, they did it with Breakfast at Tiffany's.
That's what I was about to say. That's literally what I was about to say. Oh,
it is sadly not uncommon.
It's just funny that they put people who are known. It would be one thing if it was just like, oh, here's some random dude, like dress him up. But it's like, oh, Marlon Brando. Perfect. He looks Asian.
I think he fought for the role. I think he really wanted it.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Much like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, yes.
All right. Okay. Let's move on, guys.
Okay.
He did it.
All right. So the next one is Intolerable Cruelty.
Yes. And the synopsis is a beautiful gold digger matches wits with a shrewd Beverly Hills divorce lawyer who is increasingly attracted to her.
All right, here's the trailer.
Please sit. Relax. Consider this office your office.
Now, sir, tell me your troubles.
Well... Come to Papa. Come on now. My wife has me between a rock and a hard place.
That's her job. You should respect that.
Sounds like to me, you gonna nail his...
When a marriage hits the skids...
Honey, my key doesn't work. Can we talk?
And there's a fortune to protect. Miles Massey is the best there is.
So you propose that in spite of demonstrable infidelity on your part, your unoffending wife should be tossed out on her ear. Is that possible? It's a challenge.
Your Honor, I call Heinz the Baron Kraus von Espy.
Now, a man who was used to winning.
Did she specify what kind of a husband she was looking for?
She said she wanted a very rich husband.
Is about to lose his heart to a woman.
Look at her, an athlete at the peak of her powers. Excuse me.
Who is ready to bite back.
I would be delighted. Honored, really, if you...
Howard!
You named him after your ex.
I'm sentimental.
Friends, today, Miles Massey is here to tell you that love need cause us no fear. I assume you're a carnivore.
Oh, Mr. Massey, you have no idea.
Love need cause us no shame.
Objection, Your Honor! Strangling a witness!
I'm going to allow it.
Love is good.
Marilyn, what a pleasant... Who the hell are you?
Howard and I are planning to marry.
Dump him.
I could have you disbarred for that.
You fascinate me.
Intolerable Cruelty.
And there you have Intolerable Cruelty, a Coen's Brother movie. One of two for our more modern picks. And I'm just interested, Charles, is this one of the ones you are questioning whether it really is a screwball comedy or not?
No, actually, I think this is definitely a screwball comedy. I think it has all the elements. And by the way, we are in color. Dun-dun-dum. Because this is representing
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yes. We come back from the break and we're in color. Yeah, no, I definitely consider this to be a screwball comedy. Not to say that it's a good movie, because I don't like it at all. But it fits the mold very well that we've, by our definition.
I think so too. I have to say, I was skeptical seems too harsh a word, but I was I was unsure how I was gonna like whether there even could be a modern screwball comedy. I mean, it just feels very, I don't know, it just seems like such a 30s and 40s concept. I couldn't even like really wrap my head around how they could do it modern. But I agree with you, Charles. I think this definitely is.
And I think George Clooney is a good modern day. I don't know. I would say Cary Grant maybe. He's Cary Grant-esque and maybe a little bit of Clark Gable too. He definitely in Oh Brother Where Art Thou, he reminded me a lot of Clark Gable in appearance and everything else. But this one he's more Cary Grant, so I think he's the perfect choice to play this modern adaptation of it. So.
And he did that scene when they were like the whole thing with Wheezy Joe. When they were like following him into her house after they've ordered the hit on her, that was straight up like Arsenic and Old Lace, Cary Grant, like him with the crazy hair in his bathroom.
Yes, and I agree, and yeah, but for some reason this movie just doesn't gel for me. It's not. I don't know. It's in that weird part where it's serious but not serious, and I didn't really like Catherine Zeta-Jones in this. I don't know. I think she was probably well cast. I just didn't like the way her character was written.
Yeah.
Radio silence.
I don't.
Mark, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is a movie that like completely understands itself, as most Coen Brothers movies do, and I really enjoyed it and was just along for the ride. But I liked Catherine Zeta-Jones in this role. I thought she was perfectly cast actually for a kind of a gold digger, and I agree with what you're saying about George Clooney. But I don't know, it's one of those just really fun movies.
I think I'm with you, Mark. I don't know if I ever need to necessarily see it again, but I was entertained. The part that stands out to me as being kind of jarring was when George Clooney gives his keynote speech in Vegas.
It was too serious.
It was very serious, and I was like, what? And then when he got the standing ovation afterwards, and I couldn't tell if it was going to be a dream or something, or if that was about, I didn't remember how like far into the movie I was at that point. So I was like, is this the end? Like, is it going to go from being zany screwball comedy to triumphant love story? And then I was glad it didn't, because that would have been too weird. But that it was almost like that vinyl scratch sound when that scene came on. I was like, all right, I'm enjoying it, and then it just felt like it went in a totally different direction.
And okay, so in complete transparency, I have not seen this movie. Because I enjoy Coen Brothers when they make a dark, serious movie. I think they're really good at that. When they make a because they're so good at putting little comedic bits in their dark, serious movies that just add a little twist of the knife. I assume that's your friend in the wood chipper, that kind of stuff, where you're just like, that's the perfect thing to say right then, because it's already dark enough. We don't need to make it any darker, right? But when they make a screwball comedy, or any comedy for that matter, they always throw in something like you just described, where it's like, oh, this just got really serious really quick. And it's kind of off-putting, and it has the opposite effect, I think, from what it does for the other one, because it's like, but I'm here to have fun, and it's not fun now. What's going on? What are we doing? Like, it throws the whole, I don't know. That is what you just described. Having not even seen it, I'm like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about, because that's what they do.
Part of it is I don't like
comedy they make.
I don't really like the Jeffrey Rush character. That scene at the beginning is kind of weird, and then there's the scene with Cedric the Entertainer. I just, those scenes were so close to the beginning, just to me they were off-putting, and I just never really got back into the movie after those.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree it's probably bottom half of Coen Brothers movies, but the whole speech scene, I enjoyed it until the standing ovation from the lawyers, because I knew, like, it made sense coming from Clooney. It was like, oh, he's bought this hook, line, and sinker from Catherine Zeta-Jones, and you kind of feel like, he's putting himself out on this ledge and he's gonna fall off of the ledge, and he does immediately, in the bar afterward. But the standing ovation from the lawyers is like, wait, they're the ones who are supposed to see through all this. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it.
I liked a lot of the fast-paced dialogue. Even when they were meeting between the lawyers and stuff, and they would say things back and forth. That was very His Girl Friday-esque. Again, harkening back to Cary Grant style. So again, there were parts that I very much enjoyed. I believe this is part of a series of movies the Coens have done, starting with Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where I think George Clooney was in all of them. It's Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Intolerable Cruelty, Burn After Reading, and Hail Caesar. Do you like any of those movies, Topher, of those four that I mentioned, or do you consider those to be the weak Coen brothers movies? Because I just wonder if it's, I think they consider it like their unofficial comedies or unofficial goofy ones.
I really enjoy Oh Brother Where Art Thou because it's the Odyssey, and it's fun to pick up on the bits of that. And that movie, just the art direction on that movie and the cinematography on that movie are just killer. Like, it's great. But because they have that previous, because here's I don't really want to go into it too much because we're about to talk about Hail Caesar in a second, but I feel like the other ones suffer from just meandering. Like, they just don't really seem to have, like, where is this going? What is going on? Like, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, they have a previous source material. They very clearly, I mean, not verbatim, of course, but like pretty much where you're headed and there's an arc and all this good stuff. Whereas like the other one, I mean, I haven't seen Intolerable Cruelty, but Hail Caesar, I just was like, what is happening? And what was the other one? I'm trying to remember the
Burn After Reading.
Burn After Reading. That was a mess. That
we talked about that. Was that in our dark comedies, Kelly? I think that was a Micah one.
I was so excited for that movie too. I was so excited for that movie. The cast on that movie is out of control, and it was terrible. But anyway, I just feel like that's their problem, is they always seem to make one of those movies right after they have like won Best Picture or been nominated for Best Picture. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, seriously, like, when did Hail Caesar came out right after right after No Country for Old Men. Like, I mean, immediately after it, right? Or very close to it. And I feel like what happens is, and I may have which one came after which wrong, but I feel like the Coen brothers get to a point where they are so high on the hog in Hollywood that the emperor has no clothes. And they just turn in just a mess of a script, and the studios throw money at it, and they get to make anything, and there's no oversight. I mean,
what's your favorite Coen brothers movie?
Probably it would either be Fargo or No Country for Old Men. It would be one of those two.
See, in No Country for Old Men, I mean, it's they took, obviously they had a good source material to go from, and they took a lot of it directly from it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that sometimes they just I think they get, there are other directors who do that, who just like, they need that source material to guide them. They're great at realizing it, but making it up whole cloth, they can't do.
Did you see A Simple Man? Or A Serious Man?
I didn't see that one.
Is it Serious Man?
It was Serious Man. Yeah.
That's another weird one too.
So I feel like they have a niche that I like them in, and otherwise I'm just not.
But that niche is fantastic. I mean,
oh man, they're killer when they're in that. Yeah, they're great in that. Yeah.
Oh hey, you moved your camera around. Hey, how's it going?
Oh.
For all those listening, that was amazing.
I like all four of these, all four of their comedies.
I
thought.
Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I do love. I just want to clear that up. I do love Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I think probably for all the reasons you're mentioning, Topher, but also it gave them the weird and zany things they did fit in the context of that era. Like they had these weird characters and the weird accents and over the top ridiculousness, but it worked. But anyway, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say they're not their most dazzling examples of cinema, but I remember enjoying Burn After Reading as well, even though it's been a while since I've seen it. And it does meander, and it's like, what's kind of the point of this? But there's like these little gems in those movies where, I don't know, I remember the chopping the carrot scene, and I think it's George Clooney is like, do you really have to chop them that much? And she, like, why are you so negative? And it's I don't know. I like all four of them. Just gonna put that out there.
Maybe it's George Clooney and the Coen brothers, and just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I don't love George Clooney, like as a rule.
I was gonna say I think that's some of his most committed roles are when he's doing a Coen Brothers movie, where he's just like balls to the wall, like going all out.
No Country, or not No Country. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Definitely. But I just the thing about George Clooney is like, yeah, he does these goofy movies with them, but he's actually a really good serious actor. I mean, he won an Oscar for Syriana,
right?
Which he broke his back, and then have you guys seen that movie?
Oh, I own it.
Torture.
It's
Yeah,
great.
the torture scene. Like, he really hurt himself in that scene because he was that committed to that role. So I think he can be a fantastic actor, but I don't personally think it comes across the best in these movies, other than Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
But they didn't even let him sing for that movie.
It's
And he apparently he wanted to sing in that movie, and they didn't let him. They dubbed him. So, all right. So we going on to our last movie then?
Let's do it.
I guess so. So next we have Hail Caesar, in which a Hollywood fixer in the 1950s works to keep the studio's stars in line.
Here we go.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned.
How long since your last confession, my son?
27 hours.
It's really too often. You're not that bad.
Here at Capitol Pictures, as you know, millions of people look to us for information and uplift and, yes, entertainment. And we're going to give it to them.
And action.
An army of technicians and actors and top-notch artistic people are working hard to bring to the screen our biggest release of the year. Hail Caesar is a prestige picture with one of the biggest stars in the world, Baird Whitlock.
A truth we could see if we had, but... If we had... Faith, cut!
Mr. Mannix,
What's up?
the director can't find Baird Whitlock.
Somebody slipped it under my door. We have your movie star. Gather $100,000 and await instructions. Who are we? The future. Hello, Bert.
Hello, Mr. Mannix.
Lawrence, Obi, thank you all for coming. The studio needs your help. Baird Whitlock has been kidnapped.
This is bad. Bad for movie stars everywhere.
She sings the perfect harmony.
Let's spend 24 hours. But we're looking for him. We don't want it in the gossip columns.
This is going to cost the studio a lot of money.
And that's where you come in. I need some cash.
You must have very strong forearms. Is it hard squeezing it like that?
It's part of the job, miss.
I'd like to know what the hell is going on here. 20 million readers want the truth, Eddie.
Truth, yes.
Eddie?
So won't you tell me no truth? I wanna only your lies. Don't you tell me no truth? I wanna only your lies.
This is a drama, Mannix, a real drama.
Mr. Mannix, I know it sounds screwy, but someone's calling from the future.
Good Lord.
Wondering what's going on?
And that was Hail Caesar, the best Coen Brothers film to date.
Says Mark.
Fight me. No, I'm kidding.
Says Mark, and you're the reason that we put this on the list.
Okay, so
I do not think this is a screwball comedy.
Defend yourself.
Right. So, okay, I had not seen the movie when I asked for it to be on the list because Charles, you're the one who sent the title to me.
I just threw out a bunch of different movies.
Right. I was like,
The
Hail
plot
Caesar, Coen
thickens.
Brothers. It's classified as a screwball comedy. Let's do it. And then watching it, I also don't think it's a screwball comedy because there's no romantic plot at all to it.
So are we all in agreement this is not? Does anyone here think this is a screwball comedy?
It's a screwball movie. I don't know if it's a screwball comedy. It's
I would say at best it's a farce, right? Like that would be.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
better.
All right. Yeah, because I just. Go ahead.
And screwball comedies are supposed to satirize the romantic relationship. This movie kind of satirizes
Hollywood,
everything in Hollywood, yeah.
While also like worshiping it. It's like a love letter to it at the same time. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. This is a great movie to like get a sense of what Hollywood's really like, with all of the anticlimax of like at the very end when George Clooney's giving his speech about Christ and then forgets the last word of his speech, and then it like there's all these scenes where it's like, oh my gosh, you're kind of getting caught up in all of the the shots of these movies, and then they cut because there's some mistake. You're like, oh, that's how Hollywood is. It's not, we see the finished product, but this is just like Topher said, this is just like a machine churning out all of this stuff.
Well, and I do like, there are aspects of this movie I like, and I like that. I like that it's a parody of Ben-Hur. I mean, clearly they've been Tell the Christ or whatever, but it's a stupid joke. But when they have the guy playing Jesus nailed up on the cross, and you never see him, and they don't know if he's a supporting character, what kind of character he is, and what to give him food.
Yeah,
that's really funny. That's a subtle joke, but I did laugh at that. Again, there are aspects of it I like. I really liked the main character, Mannix. I thought Josh Brolin did a great job. I don't know if you guys know, but that is based on a real guy. There was a real guy that did that, and so it's weird that they give him that name, give him that same position that he was in real life, but then everything around him is fictional. The studio, the actors. It's like, why did they keep that aspect real, but the rest of it not so much? But it also felt like he was in a completely different movie. I kind of wanted to see a movie about him in a more serious thing rather than this goofy plot with communist and George Clooney in a Caesar haircut, which I guess is a throwback to him having a Caesar haircut in the 90s, whatever. But it's just...
Well, when you realize that George Clooney wears the same costume in the entire movie,
Yes.
and it's this ridiculous Caesar, soldier costume, it's funny when he's walking to the set after being rescued from the communists. It's like you just picture George Clooney in that the whole time he's filming this movie.
That though, again, that's the whole uneven thing about the Coen Brothers comedies, right? Is it like you said, I want to see Josh Brolin's character. I just want to watch that. I don't want to watch that character, like a 2-hour movie, a serious drama about trying to make a movie. Like that would be a great movie. But instead, he's like you said, he's in the wrong movie. It's like literally they're directing him for a totally different movie, and yeah, it's goofy. I do love the irony that they take George Clooney and put him in this position where by the end he's basically like rooting for the communists. Like, guys, they've got some good points. And it's like, this guy got nominated for Best Director for Good Night and Good Luck, an entire movie about McCarthyism.
Yeah,
you understand what we're doing right now? Like, it's hilarious. It's again, one of those where you've pigeonholed an actor and you put him in this role because it's ironic. And again, the irony may be lost or whatever, but it's not on everybody, I guess.
Well, and I get that they were, doing throwbacks to all these different, almost like vignettes, right? Like when he goes and visits each one. But they didn't go anywhere. Like Scarlett Johansson is barely in it. Jonah Hill's in one scene, and that scene is almost in its entirety. It's in the trailer. So if you're like, oh, a Jonah Hill movie, oh great, I saw the 2 lines he has in the trailer, and they never.
It was kind of a funny scene.
They never come back to it. Yeah, I'm not saying it was a good scene because it was in the trailer, and I think the trailer's fantastic. But they don't even bother to show you the outcome of that. He gets a quick throwaway line told to him. Oh yeah, this happened. Okay, well that would have been cool to see, right? Like, because I feel like there's so much of this movie they could have cut out that had, nothing to do with it. Now, as far as highlights, I loved, and I can't ever say his name or think of his name. The guy that played the cowboy in this.
Oh yeah, he was the best part of the whole movie.
I love this character. I love the part. Would that it were like would that it were. Would that it were. That scene actually cracked me up. And then, when they actually show it, and even that when they do finally reveal the line, they do that one last little thing where the film gets caught on her just to like screw with you, like ah. So that did crack me up. There were moments of brilliance mixed in. I think work. It's just the George Clooney communist part, and even the Channing Tatum part with the submarine. It just that part didn't work for me. I really wish that would have been a different movie, and they would actually try to make a more serious thing about the making of Hell Caesar.
So what? Who was Channing Tatum then? Was he an operative of the Soviet Union going back to the Soviet Union?
Yes.
And didn't want but why was he there to begin with? He didn't want the cash, or he didn't want, I guess, to spread communism, but I don't know. The whole thing was like, wait.
Yeah, they didn't even see but nobody dived to get the
right.
cases. I didn't understand that. Like, just jump in and get it.
And then,
Also, who is it? I think it's Dolph Lundgren is the guy. They don't show him, but it's the guy that meets him on top of the submarine. I think that's who played that part, and they just cut out all of his like dialogue and things. But
and the narrator was Dumbledore, right?
Yeah,
the actor that played. Yeah,
which again, why? Like, what? I thought, okay, is he going to be a character?
Charles.
Again, I think what's happening is they come off these huge highs of making great art, award-winning, huge movies, and come off and just like call up their buddies and they're like, "Hey, Jonah Hill, we're making a movie this. Do you want to come be in it?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. Anything you say."
Which,
and he shows up.
To me, though, man, to me that's like respect. Like, do what you're like. You make your No Country for Old Men, and then do what you want to do. Like, ride the wave.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and a lot of people do that. I don't begrudge anyone that does that. The smaller films and the more mainstream ones. It's just this is a bizarre film because I wouldn't call it ugly, and I wouldn't even call it bad. It's just it's not good.
So Charles, you said what's her name? Black Widow's only in it for a second, and it wasn't even what the movie's about. But what do you think the movie's about then?
That's the thing. Like there's two movies in this. There's the one about the guy that's a fixer, and obviously his faith is very important to him, and he's trying to make the right decision about moving forward with his family and his life, and it's a comment on Hollywood at the time, and is Hollywood that way going out, and then they have a jab at Lockheed Martin and all that, and so there's a lot of those kind of social commentary things going on. And then there's this whole ridiculous communist plot with a Channing Tatum as a gay seller, and I don't know. I don't know. There's two completely different movies here.
I think, to me, there's only one movie, and that's Josh Brolin, and everything that orbits around him, and he's trying to wrangle and lasso all of these characters together and move the sludge forward, like through the pipes, and get these movies.
But if that's the case, I'd rather it be entirely from his perspective. Like I feel like when they go off into the communist meetings with George Clooney, or when they go off in the submarine with Channing Tatum, that's just
a little side. To me, that was just like a side. Like George Clooney seemed like a minor character to me in this movie. He was kidnapped. You see him for like 2 meetings, and then he's back.
But honestly, if you were just what was the synopsis again? I don't remember, but it's like. Yeah, I said
I've left the page. I don't have it open at the moment.
Because if I was describing this movie, I would say it's a communist. Go ahead.
It's a Hollywood fixer in the 1950s, works to keep the studio stars in line. So basically they're pitching it as this is a story of Josh Brolin's
right.
character.
So you're right in that aspect, Mark. But to me, that doesn't gel with I just wish it wasn't this silly communist plot. I don't know.
The thing I struggled with the most while I was watching this, I didn't really like it at all. And Topher, I agree, it was like way too meandering. Agree with Charles. All the vignettes, it felt very disjointed. I would have rather just, I think we're all in agreement at this point. We want to see the movie about the Josh Brolin point, and that's pretty much it. But something that just kept bugging me when I was watching it is that I just don't know who this is for. And after this conversation, I think Topher, I think it was for the Coen brothers. I think they just made it because they felt like it. But when I'm watching it, I'm like, man, on the surface, all 5 of us or 4 of us should love this movie, right? You guys all love the Coen brothers. Like, we all love movies. We're interested in the making of movies. We've between all of us, we've seen them from every possible decade. If this movie isn't for us, who is it for? Who enjoyed this movie? The movie. I felt like the scenes that they remade were made so laboriously that they have to have been referencing a specific movie, but it's hard to know what they were like. And we've all between us seen so many movies. Like, I think it would have just been a little more successful if the movies that they would have referenced would have been a little bit more identifiable. Maybe we would have connected with it more if you could have had that factor of like, oh, that's that, that's that movie.
They did that pretty well with Ben-Hur, but for the rest of them, it was harder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't know. It was slow. There was nothing about it that really excited me. Just couldn't get into it.
I think you're right, though. They did lovingly recreate the stuff that they recreated. I mean, to the point that it was almost like, it's like, like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, where like the production design is more impressive than the movie at points. Where you're just like, wow, like that dance number with Channing Tatum. I'm like,
I liked it too. I agree. That was a really good song and dance, and it was a little over the top, but it's fun to poke fun at it.
Well, you could tell that Alden Ehrenreich, the Han Solo actor, you could tell he was really doing the lasso stuff too. Like you could tell they had the actors kind of go all in and learn this stuff.
Which is weird because in this movie he's really charming and good. And like I wish I like the Solo movie, but I wish he did the more performance like in this movie. I don't know. I thought he was a little more wooden, a little more held back in Solo. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
That's another podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole other podcast. Show.
Is it? Okay.
Star Wars spin-offs, the movies. Yeah, we'll just do.
All right. So I don't know. I guess we're gonna do. Kelly, do you have your picks yet? Do you want to? Or are you still gonna do mine next time?
Oh, I just figured we'd still do yours.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited about Cats. and forcing my wife to watch it with me.
What's the third one? You have Cats, Island of Dr. Moreau, and what's the
original Planet of the Apes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those are, and again, it's not that the plot actually has to be like a mixing of human and animal. Island of Dr. Moreau does that, but I feel like if it's enough between where it's like you could tell they're humans in makeup or humans in CG, then that counts. So.
Personified animals,
anthropomorphized.
Yeah, maybe, but then
anthropomorphize, I think, is turning into animals.
Or that's
personify is turning into human.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, how many of you have seen Cats?
Not yet.
Am I the only one? So
are we watching the special version or the non?
There's not really a special version of it.
I have access. I know a guy. So
okay, well,
we'll talk after the show.
You can watch it if you think you'll enjoy it more or less. I'm not sure which way you want to go with that, but also as far as the Island of Dr. Moreau, there are no, it's not, right?
I'm kidding.
Okay. But there are different versions of that. There's an R-rated version and a PG-13. So take your pick.
Really?
Yeah, I think if you rent it on iTunes, I think it's the R-rated one, and you could tell because there's a lot more violence in it. It's like, whoa, because I hadn't seen it in a while, and then I rewatched it. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that.
That book, I read that book when I was younger, and that is a terrifying book. So if that movie is even remotely true to that book, that is a terrifying movie.
What? How did you know I would have put that on my list, Topher? Like, out of curiosity, you knew I
anthropomorphized people. Like, yeah. What's more terrifying than Cats? Nothing. But Moreau is close, so that's gonna have to be on the list, I guess. I don't know.
And Planet of the Apes.
And Planet of the Apes. The original. I can't believe you're doing the original. Why not the?
Oh, whoops! I'm like knocking things out. Why not the Tim Burton one? Yeah. I consider the Tim Burton one too, but it's.
Well, you've done it, right?
We've done that one before, so we've never done the original one. But, yeah. And I feel like if I did the Tim Burton one, that would have given away which one it is in my list. So, because you guys never know. I mean, I may pick one you think is terrible, and I may pick it.
I have a feeling you loved Cats. I have a feeling you loved it.
Like, never know with Charles.
I did see it in theaters. I went and saw it.
Of course you did.
That was my New Year's movie. I went and saw it. So.
Back when movies were a thing in theaters.
Yes, that is. So, I don't know if I mentioned this in the beginning, but we're kind of in different states here. I mean, Mark and I are in Texas, but Topher, you're in Georgia, and Kelly, you're in Tennessee. So, what are the restrictions like for you guys? Are they lifting them coming soon?
I think ours are through April 30th.
Okay.
And that we're supposed to still do social distancing, but you can. I think they're gonna slowly open some restaurants and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, our governor took some needed flack for reopening when he chose to reopen and the things that he chose to reopen. It was like, hey,
it's already reopened. Georgia's already been opening.
Well, I mean, basically, like I think Friday they're gonna start allowing like hair salons and nail salons and massage parlors and like bowling alleys, and I mean pretty much the things where it is impossible to socially distance, they're reopening those immediate. Like that's what they're starting with. They're not starting with like essential things where you can stay away from each other. They're starting with, oh, is there somebody touching you physically? Yeah, let's open those up. And that's what they're starting with. So, but our governor was also the one who like 2 weeks ago was like, we didn't know anything about asymptomatic transmission. Now that we know, we're shutting it down. And like,
and in Texas, Mark, they're, is it next at the end of this month, right? Is that what they're talking about? Opening up a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard actually many details yet.
I know. It seems to me that I hear more from our lieutenant governor than anything else, because he's the one that said some things are more important than living. So
yeah, I just know as a teacher, the schools are closed for the school year. So
yeah. So
I'm just hunkered down until August, basically.
Yeah. So because there's a lot of movies. Who knows? I mean, what's going to happen with the movies? I don't know if we said this last time, but I think is it AMC? They may not make it out of this because they were not doing well before this, and they're not doing well, especially during it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I know Disney and Pixar put Onward on Disney Plus, and they've been kind of shuffling around Black Widow and other big movies. So we'll see what's going to happen. I don't know. And I don't know if I said this last time either. Alamo Drafthouse, which is one of my favorites, they're doing a thing where they used to do a thing called Weird Wednesday and Terror Tuesday. They would do these kind of obscure, bizarre movies, and you could go and see them for cheap. And they're now showing them online. So every Tuesday and every Wednesday, they come out with a new one, so you can rent it online. That's really cool because it helps them out, and you get to see some interesting movies. So some of that stuff.
Cool.
Some of that stuff helps to pass the time. So if you guys are if you're like me and you like weird movies, obscure movies, and because they also they do like I just watched a movie called Roar, which was made in the late 70s over the course of several years, and it's Tippi Hedren and Melanie Griffith, and which actually, Kelly, I know you like Tippi Hedren, I believe, so this one might appeal to you, but it was her husband at the time who was a producer for the original Exorcist. They got this like kind of compound, and they started buying up all these big cats like tigers and lions and leopards, and they decided to make a movie with all of them, and none of the animals are trained, and so they just literally he just threw his family into these scenes where they were getting attacked really truly by lions. Like Melanie Griffith
It is a terrifying movie.
Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it. I've never seen the whole thing, but like the parts I've seen, I'm like, you're watching your daughter die right now. Like, what are you doing?
Well, truly, like, she said she got attacked by one and needed facial reconstruction surgery. The camera guy, Jan de Bont, who went on to direct Speed and all that, he got scalped by one and he did like 200 stitches because it's insane. And
like the original Tiger King.
And so if you, the whole movie, it's just intense because you don't know what's going to happen. Everything is real in it. They all got seriously hurt, and it's on the Weird Wednesday, so you could still rent it through Alamo Drafthouse. It goes through Vimeo, so check it out because they actually did an interview with the son of the guy, the producer guy that made it. So
that's funny. I completely forgot about that, but I remember you telling me about that movie years ago.
So Alamo Drafthouse basically brought it back. It was an obscure movie that didn't do well. I think they marketed it as like a family movie back then. And so Alamo brought it back in the like 2015 or so, and brought it back, and that's why it's popular again. But it's a very, very bizarre movie. You can't believe, like, seriously, like, how did they not die? Because there are so many animals that just crowd them and paw at them, and Eesh.
Well, unless you're married to Carol Baskin, it's really hard to get killed by one of those tigers.
Is it? Poor Carol Baskin.
Gotta have a lot of tuna oil on there.
If she didn't do it, this is horrible for her.
No, it's not. Have you seen Come on.
Oh, she killed him. She killed him. Like that's not even like.
I don't know. I don't know that she did. I don't know.
Oh man. Okay.
All right.
I'm sure OJ didn't do anything out of that.
Wait.
No, innocent until proven guilty.
All right.
Sorry, Carol. If you're listening, Carol, I'm sorry. I don't know.
There are a lot of good songs that have come out of this though. There's a rapper guy that rapped about it, and they're actually really catchy. So again, if she didn't do it, she's having to live with all this crap. She's, public opinion. Anyway, she's definitely been found guilty.
They opened the cold case, I think. I heard.
They reopened it back up.
Yeah.
They really did. And there's been a few different documentaries on it, and they added a new episode of Tiger King after all this.
Good times.
All right. So, so check out that Weird Wednesday stuff. Check out Joe Bob on Shudder this Friday. Next time we'll
check us out.
Yeah, next time we'll be back with human-animal hybrid movies. And maybe everything will be lifted then, and times will be back to normal. Go ahead, Mark.
Cross your fingers, people.
Yep.
So check us out on itsjustawesome.com and on Twitter and iTunes at Good Bad Podcast, all one word.
And thank you for being with us this time, Topher. This is cool. It's good having you.
Yeah, this is fun, guys.
It's fun.
All right. So take it easy, guys. Stay safe out there.
Thanks, everybody.
6 feet.